While players' house carries out secret research for the Emperor, other factions begin to plot their own plans for the player's planet. An explosion in the lab, a betrayal, and a chilling discovery. Find out what this could lead to and uncover the secrets of the conspiracy. I'm Game Master in Action, and this is a new scenario. Tears of Inoria is an original scenario for the RPG system Dune: Adventures in the Imperium, published by Nostius. The system is set in the brilliant world by Frank Herbert, allowing you to plunge into the sands of Arrakis and travel the known universe aboard Guild Highliners. It's a distant future where humanity inhabits feudal empire ruled by the Emperor, a world where more than 10,000 years ago humanity liberated itself from a 10th century-long enslavement by thinking machines. In this world, any computer-based technology is forbidden, and what enables the Empire to exist is only found on the desert planet Arrakis, called Dune. It's a melange, commonly known as spice. It is thanks to the properties of the spice that safe space travel is possible, and its consumption prolongs life, expands consciousness, and even allows one to see a glimpse of the future. Without a doubt, melange is the most valuable substance in the universe. Dune is a world of politics played between ruling houses of the Empire and factions that, although seemingly not in power, know how to pull the strings. In this system, players take on a role of members of one of the houses and can influence its politics. But that doesn't mean they don't get their hands dirty, and that the unfold events will only be watched from behind the deliberation table. It would be good if at least one player was a family spy or someone involved in the security of the house. In this scenario, players are members of the House Kataskopos, but with some small modifications it can be played with any other house. They gained, or basically regained, ancestral rights about 50 years ago. Their theft is planet Inoria, a harsh world plunged into eternal twilight. This planet orbits very close to its star, by which it is gravitationally locked. One of its hemispheres is always exposed to the star, and the other faces eternal darkness. One is a world of fire and molten rock, and the other of ice. But between those extremes is a belt of favorable conditions where it is possible to live. There are two main cities on the planet, located on the North Pole, Twilight, the planet's capital and seat of the House government, and located at the South Pole, Lonis, the city of the Empire ruling House Corino. The map of the planet can be found in the handouts for this scenario. The player's house has not always lived on this planet. As I mentioned, the ancestral rights were regained about 50 years ago, after a nearly 250-year banishment. Why did this happen? Well, let's just say that the actions carried out by the family led to the loss of privileges. Probably, there were plots and conspiracies behind it, and the house itself was innocent. Or at least that's the official version. What in the past was one family, over time, through internal disagreements and conflicts, led to a split into two sister houses, which now have no sympathy for each other. You can learn more about the House Kataskopos in the episode of Biographies, link in the description. Inoria was discovered less than 100 years ago. Like any new discovered planet, it was surveyed to determine its usefulness to the Empire. It turned out not to be rich in resources, which combined with not easy ecological conditions made it not a promising world. It is possible that it would have been completely abandoned had it not been for a group of scientists and an ecological report that was submitted to then Emperor Erod IX of the Imperial House Corino. The report drew attention to a small plant growing on the planet's plains. Its leaves accumulate dew, which exhibit properties somewhat similar to melange. It expands perception. Such a notable discovery could not be ignored. The slightest chance of discovering a melange substitute had to be investigated, and preferably so that no other house and no other faction found about it too soon. At this point, a house of players entered the scene, which at the time was still in exile. But it was fortunate that the head of the house was a scientist specializing in biochemistry. Who else would be a more loyal executor of Corino's plan then a forgotten house that could be given a chance for redemption. An imperial decree ended the banishment by transferring Inoria as a fief and the Corino house as a direct senior. The banishment was also ended for the sister house, but they were left in charge of a small insignificant moon in another part of the cosmos. Research began on the dew, also known as the tears of Inoria. Quite quickly, it became apparent that the substance actually affects perception, which gave hope to achieve other properties of a melange: geriatric effect and clairvoyance. An extensive dew cultivation infrastructure and laboratories were established on the planet. Unfortunately, the melange alternative was further away than originally thought. Of course, there were some results, some even undeniably confirming the potential. In the early years of research, 5 courage people were selected and exposed to concentrated dew. Each of them fell asleep, and their vital activities seemed to have almost stopped, and they have remained in the state for 50 years, while biologically they aged only a day. They are now known as Inorian mummies. Of course, the research didn't stop there. Further research was conducted into DOE microdosing, which gave much more interesting results, and began what the house is now known for: perceptionists. People exposed to DOE from the earliest years. Well, it turns out that prolonged exposure to microdoses of the DOE increases perception to absurd limits. Perceptionists are able to remember everything around them, every detail, sound, smell. The only drawback is that they are unable to draw any conclusions from their observations or connect facts in the memorized scenes. They have quickly become the house's expert commodity. The wealthy acquire perceptionists to send them to the furthest, often dangerous regions of the universe to see and experience for them, and upon their return, they recount with remarkable accuracy what they saw. An ideal tool for artists, court aristocrats, or houses wishing to send absolute observers. You will find a description of perceptionists along with the talents in the materials for this scenario. The story begins with summoning of the characters by Duke Tayden, head of the house. It is possible that the heroes are members of the House Council or people who work closely with the council. Tayden is considered a good politician, but also has a reputation of being a hothead. He is known for his disdain for the Bene Gesserit. In the council room, besides him, are Nostius, the House Chief Scientist and Mentat, Orton Bitumin, emissary and representative of the House at Landsraad's meeting, and Pauline Sul, who serves as auditor from the Corino House. Pauline has just arrived from Leonis to discuss the incident that took place last night.
We have been informed of an unfortunate incident that occurred last night in one of the laboratories where your house is conducting research on Dune. As a representative of the Emperor, I would appreciate an explanation. I think it is important to note that Inoria is a planet dedicated to dewlap research. And while the results have not yet met the Emperor's expectations, we are committed to continuing this important work. I would also like to take this opportunity to remind you that the responsibility for this research rests with your house, Duke Tayden. I hope it will not be considered interference if I point out that so far, no results have been obtained. And the complete destruction of one of the laboratories will not necessarily accelerate the expected results.
You will find this recording in the materials for this scenario. The Duke seems to be as surprised by the reason for the visit as the players. Orton assures that the house is aware of the situation and will do its best to immediately discover the cause of the explosion. Duke also stresses that it was a minor laboratory and above all, not the only one on the planet, as confirmed by Mentat Nostius. Duke obliges the players to investigate. It is possible that the auditor will want to get from them what steps have been taken in this very important matter. The players, for obvious reasons, have not been able to make any moves yet, but the auditor will not care that this is just the very beginning of their session. The meeting with the Imperial representative is over. But not with the Duke. The Duke demands an explanation of the situation. Nostius explains that the information about the explosion reached him early in the morning. In fact, not long before the meeting itself. According to the report he received, there was an implosion in the laboratory and no one survived. Nostius stressed that the only thing that worries him about the incident is the instant reaction of the auditor, who, given the distance he had to travel, found out about it much earlier than the house. He is not worried about the laboratory itself, because it was insignificant, and in research work, accidents are part of the occupational risk. Although his calmness and composure may surprise, it should be remembered that he is a mentat, and behind his attitude is an unemotional calculation and reason. The argument somehow reassures the Duke, but he still wants the characters to investigate the situation. Since the matter has been noticed by the Imperial Auditor, he will expect explanation and reports. It is true that the house is on this planet because of Dune, and any interference with the work on its research only shows the incompetence of the house. Ortan raises another issue, unrelated to the case. There has been another request from the Sisterhood to accept one of its sisters as an advisor or observer. Such requests come in frequently and are rejected each time. The Duke, upon hearing about Bene Gesserit, becomes furious, as always, and with satisfaction stresses that as long as he is Duke here, no witch will set foot on this planet. The meeting comes to an end. Ortan Bitumin takes the players aside, or at least the highest person in the house hierarchy, and offers to take over the investigation. It is an important matter, he explains, and it's better, for their sake, to hand over the investigation to him than to disappoint the Duke with a lack of results. Bitumin clearly does not believe in the player's competencies, and accepting his offer would doom the player's position in the house. At this stage, the characters may know little about the laboratory itself. The information is available to them and will be easy to get. After all, they are investigating the case. If there is a mentat or scientist on the team, the information will be readily available. The destroyed laboratory was a small building with one above-ground floor and 3 underground floors. It carried out research focused mainly on the Duke cultivation, but having passed the Epic Understand test, it is clear that there are some inconsistencies in the official reports on the activities of this lab, and it actually had to deal with something else. Crop research was just a cover. The only person with whom those inconsistencies could be discussed is Nostius, the chief mentat and scientist of the house, but he went immediately after the meeting to audit other scientific facilities, and for the time being, the characters have a more pressing matter: a visit to the accident site. The destroyed laboratory is a scientific facility number 3. It is, or rather was, located in the south of the planet, about 1,000 kilometers from the city of Leonis. When the characters arrive at the site, not much is left of the lab. It is possible that they decide to send their resources to secure the site or to do some preliminary reconnaissance before arriving there themselves. It will take several hours to fly from the twilight. Little is left of the lab itself. The implosion took place on the -2 floor, destroying completely the -3 and -2 floors. The -1 and 0 floors are partially destroyed. On the site, the characters will learn that one scientist survived and was taken to a hospital in Floris, a city several hundred kilometers to the north. They also learn that a perceptionist who had been stationed at the lab has been found. The characters, if they want, can go to the lab building itself, but it is not safe to move around. Floors -2 and -3 are inaccessible, and the building itself could collapse at any moment. If you want to add drama, the aforementioned perceptionist may still be buried in the rubble of level -2, and players will have to make an effort to get him out. The house uses perceptionists as observers, recorders, and live surveillance cameras of every important building. The one extracted, unfortunately, will not survive. The wounds he has suffered are too great, and the Ixian aperture is only capable of keeping him alive long enough to be able to talk to him. As I mentioned earlier, perceptionists are not able to draw conclusions, so what information players draw from him will depend entirely on the questions they ask. In other words, he won't be able to tell if something suspicious was going on, but from the account given, players can come to such conclusions. And these are the most important information that can be drawn from the conversation with him. In the months leading up to the implosion, there was no change of personnel and no visit by unfamiliar individual was reported. On the day of the implosion, the list of employees present at the facility was consistent with the planned personnel lineup for the day. The lab is supplied by transport from the village of Clam, located a few dozen kilometers from the city. The last such transport took place 3 weeks ago. The implosion site was the site of an unusual experiment that led to this disaster. One of the scientists subjected cooled to absolute zero feelings of a substance unknown to the perceptionist to an atomizing beam. Mendat's analysis will identify what substance could have led to something like this. Those are so-called Kaltian fillings, a substance used in heavy industry, something that definitely should not be in this lab. And above all, this substance is extremely expensive and the trade strictly regulated. Whoever is behind this must have tried very hard and invested huge amount of salaries. The scientist himself, Nathan Vastis, left the lab, and few moments later the tank of atomized filling imploded with a tremendous force. The perceptionist also noticed that the scientist had taken with him a copy of a report on the research carried out at this laboratory. As one can easily guess, the scientist is the mentioned survivor who is currently in a hospital in Floris. It doesn't take long to reach the city. When the characters get to the hospital, they find out that unfortunately they were too late. Nathan Vastis died and his body was cremated. In fact, they just miss his wife. Why the rush? The person they are talking to, most likely a nurse, is unable to explain, but can lead them to a doctor who made such a recommendation. If they want to talk to the doctor, they will discover that he is lying dead in the storage room next to his office. The nurse is shocked because she spoke to him less than half an hour ago. What is going on here? Could it be that someone impersonated the doctor and wanted to kill the scientist? Is it possible that it could be a form-changing face dancer? A deeper investigation, if the characters have time for it, will lead to a conclusion that the cremation took place only on paper. A quick combination of facts leads to a conclusion. The face dancer could have already impersonated the scientist before the implosion, killed the doctor in the hospital, impersonated him, and signed off the scientist's cremation. And now, he left the hospital as scientist's wife. The characters must act fast. With the face dancer, it is no joke. Just like a chameleon, he can impersonate anyone, and with each change, the chances of catching him dramatically decrease. It's worth committing additional resources here and placing a perimeter around the scientist's home, as well as the airport. The face dancer will definitely want to leave the town. Let's assume that the characters will go to the scientist's house, and the secure forces have been instructed to guard the airport. In the house, the characters find the body of scientist's wife. She has been dead for at least a few days. An efficient search of the room will allow players to find a hidden box. How it is secured? It's up to you, but with more or less effort, the characters should get to its contents, but what they will find will come in a moment. At the same time, the face dancer is making his way through the streets of Floris to get to a hidden ornithopter. He is a good fighter, so he will eliminate any difficulties he encounters on his way, and if caught, he will take his own life with a poisoned tooth. If he manages to get to the machine and take off, he will immediately be spotted and shot down, whether by the security forces or the players themselves. With his remains, whether in the aftermath of the desperate taking of his life or in the downed ornithopter, the lab report will be found, and the ornithopter itself had coordinates entered that pointed to the Gori village area. Now, let's go back to the content of the box. There's a lot of it in there, and it seems that the face dancer knew that the players were after him, and that's why he didn't take what he hid there. In the box, the players find a bundle of documents, information about Dr. Nathan Vastis, whom he impersonated, and seemingly about his next target, a certain Virion Kai, who is expected by Rileya, a Bene Gesserit sister on Arrakis. The documents show that the face dancer was supposed to learn from Rileya why the sisterhood is so interested in Inoria. In addition, there is a fremsack, a fixed crysknife. Also, there are shipping documents authorizing a flight from Inoria to Arrakis. The flight is scheduled to begin the day after tomorrow. Inoria doesn't have a direct connection to Arrakis, so it will probably be a longer trip. Interestingly, the documents are issued to the bearer, and that's not a cheap thing to do. Regardless, it just shows that whoever is behind this mission is investigating hugely in its success. With this information, it is worth returning to Duke. It will take a few hours to return to the capital. This will give all to time to check the report stolen by the face dancer and analyze what actually happened here. The report reveals that the lab after all was not engaged in cultivation as Nostius mentioned, but very advanced research on obtaining the properties of a melange from dew. And more importantly, its researchers made a breakthrough. It seems that a method has been discovered to produce dew vapor that can allow the guild navigators to navigate, just like with melange. One dreads to think of consequences of such discovery, and even more so, of its being revealed too soon. Okay, let's get the facts together. The employee of the lab that made the breakthrough discovery was replaced by a face dancer who brings the lab to destruction but steals the research report, after which he tried to get to the area of Gori village, a meaningless place on the planet. His next move was to go to Arrakis to extract information from the Bene Gesserit as to why they were interested in Inoria. Duke accepts the player's findings. Nostius explains that the work carried out by this laboratory was secret and that the players didn't have sufficient clearance to have access to it. Interestingly, it seems that the Duke himself was unaware of the importance of this lab. The characters know that he doesn't have a neck for scientific issues, and that's what he has Nostius for. Decisions are made. The house cannot allow someone to sabotage the research under their noses. The characters are tasked with finding who is behind it. Without a doubt, it will be necessary to go to Arrakis to find the mentioned Bene Gesserit. It will be wise to prepare for this expedition. There is a good chance that the characters had not been on Dune before. The well-packed trade will certainly come in handy here, but before the expedition takes place, it's worth checking out what the Gori village is all about. That's where the face dancer wanted to escape. Gori is a small village. It is mainly famous for being the furthest settlement toward the nocturnal hemisphere. Temperatures here reach minus 70 degrees Celsius. Its residents are engaged in fishing. Some of them are descendants of the first explorers who came here about 100 years ago, that is, even before the house, which makes them believe that they have a greater right to Inoria. The trip to Gori takes about an hour. The village is located on an island on a frozen part of the ocean. This far into the night, there is already almost total darkness, illuminated occasionally by strands of aurora borealis. Within the village, the house has its own man, a spy. His name is Halmin Hal. Originally from Floris, this young man has volunteered to serve in the area. The piercing cold and the perpetual night are not frightening to him. When contacted, Halmin suggests meeting outside the village itself. A visit by representatives of the house or anyone from the Twilight could raise the suspicions of the residents who do not trust the capital, and for the sake of the house, he prefers not to reveal who he works for. When the characters explain what took place and mention the face dancer, Halmin says that there have indeed been some offworlders for a while in and around the village. He knows that they have someone somewhere on the planet, and it's probably the face dancer. He doesn't know what their goals are, but one of them has won the trust of the local leader. This offworlder is Shturmin Kups, and he arrived on Inoria about 7 years ago. He is currently engaged in poaching. When asked about the place the face dancer was heading to, he says it's an empty area south of Gori. The characters should get there without any problems. He himself, for fear of exposing his role, will not go with them. At the first glance, there is nothing in the indicated place. It is a flat area covered with ice as far as the eye can see. Closer observation allows to notice a seemingly undistinguished piece of ice. It turns out to be a camouflage smuggling safe deposit box, but before the characters manage to seize its contents, someone is shooting from the darkness. Several people appear and a fight breaks out. House agents should deal with them, but it certainly won't be a light fight. Whatever is in the box, those people are determined that it should not fall into the wrong hands. The fight is fierce, but the characters come out of it more or less unharmed. Moreover, one of the attackers is still hanging on, with the last of his strength. It may even be Shturmin Kups himself. If the characters possess Verita, Kups will tell them everything he knows.
I was sent to Inoria 7 years ago by the masters of Bene Tleilax to gain the favor and trust of the people of Gori. Each day of my mission was a step toward realizing the enigmatic goals of my superiors. I meticulously carried out the orders of the Gori chiefs, in order that in time they would open the door to a secret they themselves did not understand. But don't ask me what that secret is. I am only a tool. All I know is that it is all related to the cultural report on your planet, written down more than 50 years ago. My masters say they see in it the past and future of the Empire. I don't know further guidelines for the face dancer, and I don't know what his goals are. I can only say that his identity is confirmed by the password Sophia.
You will find this recording in the materials for this scenario. Could it be that Nostius is a traitor? And what is this report he mentioned? As for the contents of the box, the players find a small recorder there, but they need a password to play the message. Fortunately, they have it.
Your next target is Lard.
The face dancer was supposed to impersonate Lard, the Duke's son? This threat is already eliminated, but what was the purpose? To spy on the house? There is no time to lose. It is necessary to act. The flight to Arrakis is getting closer and closer, and the problems are only increasing. If the characters contact the capital, they will learn that Nostius has left the city with Bitumen, and they are going to Leonis, from where they are taking a shuttle to Caetan, the capital of the Empire, for Bitumen. This is a standard trip, and Nostius wanted to join him for some reason. Could it be that he realized that players are treading on his toes? But how? There are several ways to stop Nostius from leaving the planet. Contacting Leonis is one of them, but given that the auditor is keeping tabs on the house's activity, it's better not to add to this strange apprehension of the chief scientist. It would definitely show the incompetence of the house. They can try a chase, but Nostius has the advantage and the chances of catching him en route are small, but it is feasible. There is also a chance to call in their ship, and whether by talking to the pilot or Bitumen, to turn back to Twilight, but this will have to be well played. Nostius knows something is up, otherwise he wouldn't have run away, and Bitumen has business to attend to in the capital, so without a compelling reason, he won't allow to turn around, but properly presenting the case to him will not only convince him to return, but also make him start respecting the players. If the players manage to intercept Nostius, they will have a chance to question him. The alternative is to look for Nostius's closer associates, which is also possible. Players will learn disturbing things from Nostius's testimony.
Throughout my life, I swore loyalty, but not to the house, but to Gori, my homeland. Although I served the usurpers, my heart has always beat for the people of Gori. I believe that the day will come when the people of Gori will walk the path of kings and gain power over the entire planet. The power that the current house has appropriated for itself will soon crumble, and nothing will be left of their rule. The path will lead us to our destination. It is because of it that I was appointed chief scientist of the house. Know that the people of Gori have powerful friends beyond our planet, Their support will strengthen our cause and bring the moment closer when we will be the ones to rule. Our strength and determination are unbreakable. Our time is coming.
You will find this recording in the materials for this scenario. From the testimony, the characters learn also that he is responsible for destroying all copies of the culture report on Inoria. He did this to distract the rulers from Gori village. You will find his testimony in the materials for this scenario. As for the Path of Kings, it is a plan plotted by Gori leaders to seize power on the planet. Nostius doesn't know what it's based on. He left the village as a young boy, but is convinced of its validity. Characters can generate an asset, the cultural report, and get a forgotten copy of it in Bitumen's archives. The report can also be provided by Bitumen from Caetan. Alternatively, the more important facts from the report can be remembered by Nostius himself. And here they are. The report mainly focuses on the culture of the Gori people and their ritual of handing over power. According to their tradition, the authority of the local chief can be challenged by any other villager. In that case, they go to a place called the Borehole, a tunnel drilled into the ice far into the nocturnal hemisphere. No one knows exactly what happens there, but when they return, sometimes both of them, only one of them, the issues of authority are fixed and no one questions it. According to the report, being in extremely cold temperatures causes the participants to be under the influence of hallucination, which helps them to decide on who will take power. Another hypothesis speaks of a test of power somehow related to ice. The house has never studied this aspect. It's time to visit Arrakis. Getting on a shuttle will not be a problem at all. players can use the transportation document they have acquired or buy a seat on the flight for the Planetary Guild representative in Twilight. In either case, the flight will be without any surprises. Characters are equipped with a letter from the Duke to the Governor of Arrakis in case there are any difficulties, and if they talk with the Duchess, a letter written in the coded dots to Rileya, the sister of Bene Gesserit, whom they want to find. The shuttle is ultimately supposed to land in Arrakis, but due to the Governor's decision, has been diverted to Kartak, where the Governor's office is located. The characters did not warn the Harkonnens of their visit, so this turn of events is a bit strange. The players are picked up from the landing site by representatives of the house, including Peter de Vries, the Harkonnen Mentat, and are invited to a dinner with Rabban, the governor of Arrakis. During the meeting, it is mainly de Vries who speaks and leads the conversation. He is evidently interested in the reasons for the character's arrival. Dune players may get the impression that they are being interrogated, and for good reason. That's just the way it is. Between you and me, the Harkonnens have their spies on Inoria. They know perfectly well what is going on there and what research are being done, and the success of this research is a direct threat to their monopoly on the spies. They also know that the research is at a quite advanced stage, but do not know the details. De Vries suspects that the reason for the trip to Arrakis is to obtain raw spies for further research. Therefore, from the Harkonnens' point of view, this mission must end in failure, preferably in tragic circumstances. Signals from the characters that they need to find Rileya are met with the information that the Harkonnens people will take care of it, and the characters can go to Arrakis in the morning when the Bene Gesserit will already be waiting for them, which of course is a lie. In the morning, players are escorted to the ornithopter. Halfway to Arrakis, there is an explosion in the machine's engine, and it dives downward straight into Soundworm's territory. This is no accident. The Harkonnens have taken care of it. Even if the characters wanted to sneak out, their hosts would be prepared for it. In the desert, they have to act fast. Without steel suits, they won't survive long, and just after plunging into the sand, a sign of sandworm appears on the horizon. Reconnaissance of the terrain will help locate some rocks close enough to run to. It just so happens that those rocks are the base camp of a smuggler's shaik working for Harkonnens. This shaik was sent to intercept Rileya and deliver her to Carthagene. The Harkonnen want to squeeze everything out of her that might have been useful to the Kataskopos house, and they were to make sure there were no survivors of the ornithopter crash. Assuming that the characters survive their confrontation with the bandits, they find Sister Rileya bound and gagged in one of the caves. The main goal of the characters is to find out what the Sisterhood wants from Inoria. Rileya will be distrustful of the characters, but handing over the letter from the Duchess or calmly explaining the situation may help the case.
One of the Bene Gesserit sisters experienced a powerful clairvoyance. In her vision, she saw a dark threat that inevitably hangs over the Empire, but its full nature remains unclear. The Bene Gesserit, knowing of this vision, turned to the Inorian mummy, a member of our sisterhood, whose dormant consciousness traverses the boundlessness of time. Her inner gaze penetrates the veils of the future, and her wisdom can reveal the unknown to us. The decision has been made. The congregation must enter a deep trance to unite with her consciousness and discover the true nature of the coming danger. In this mystical connection, we seek answers hidden in the darkness of the future. Answers that can save our empire from an unknown nightmare. Time is our greatest obstacle, but also the key to salvation. Only a shared trance, a joining of minds, can reveal the truth to us. Our mission is clear. The stakes have never been higher, but the goal will be achieved.
You will find this recording in the materials for this scenario. Rileya adds that the Bene Gesserit never bet on one card, just as Some of the sisters are acting peacefully by sending petitions. Another faction of the sisterhood is plotting to take the planet from the House Kataskopos by fueling their sister house to take over. She doesn't know the details of the plot, but she knows that the goal of this house is to undermine their competences of the work on the Dune in the eyes of the Emperor, and that the house has some powerful allies who are helping out with their resources at a bargaining price. If the characters help get some sisters to Inoria, then it will be possible to stop this plan, but there is less and less time. The characters have several ways of getting off the planet undetected. They can pay guild representatives, smugglers, or make a deal with the Bene Gesserit. Once back on Inoria, the characters must act efficiently and cleverly. The Bene Gesserit wants to get to the planet to have access to Inorian mummies, but it is known that Duke Tyden will not allow this. On the other hand, delaying on this subject will cause the Sisterhood to act to change the power on the planet. The characters will have to find a way to let the sisters get what they want. How they accomplish this? It's for you to decide. When the sisters' visit takes place, whether official or almost illegal, a trance of truth happens with the participation of one of the mummies, Bene Gesserit, whose dormant consciousness travels to the distant corners of the future. The seance takes place behind closed door, and when it comes to an end, all the present sisters are terrified. One without a word of explanation goes to Leonis, from where she is to go directly to the Emperor's palace. Rileya, who is present at the seance, explains that Inoria is a hiding place of an ancient enemy, one of the copies of a certain Omnius, Lord of Thinking Machines, ruler of synchronized worlds, enemy of humanity. This information must go to the Emperor without delay. Asked for details, she adds that the vision was symbolic, and they saw Omnius sitting on a throne of ice, making promises of power in exchange for silence. Leaders of Gori have been talking for generations about the Path of Kings, a plan to allow them to seize power. The leaders are connected to a borehole somewhere in the ice side of the planet. Is it possible that this plan is in fact being created by Omnius? If this is true and it comes out that thinking machines have been hiding under the nose of the house for over 50 years, the Emperor will wipe out all the members of the house into oblivion, and there will be nothing left of the planet. Well, unless the Duke could be some kind of bargaining chip in the eyes of the Emperor. But for now, this borehole must be finally explored. Locating the borehole could be problematic, and it's possible that the characters will need the support of the residents, or Halmin Hal, a spy who works for the house. Surprisingly, they cannot get in touch with him. The borehole is a tunnel drilled in the ice going down a slight slope. Its length is about 2-3 kilometers. At its end, to players' horror, they find something that may actually be part of Thinking Machine, a column that automatically responds to their arrival.
Before you come to destroy me, let me add that this column is just my mouth, so to speak, but not my mind. For some time now I have been watching your actions. Not directly, of course, but through the people who work for me. I know the situation you are in, and I know that my presence here is a serious threat to the existence of your house. I also know what you care about, and that is getting a substitute for melange from the so-called Inorian Dew. I am able to give you the technology to obtain such a substitute. In order not to be lip service, my people have left you a gift in a chest by the wall. There you will find a vial of melange dew. Don't worry, it's not poison. But I also have to worry you won't be able to recreate the process needed to synthesize it. I would also add that I know of the existence of another planet with a much larger surface area than this band of yours that you have, on which dew can be grown much more efficiently. You are wondering how I know this. I have many sources of information and computational capabilities that far exceed your biological limitations. Leave this planet for me, and leave the people of Gori behind, and I will give you what you need to achieve your goal. Being one step ahead of you, I will add that I am not the only Omnius. I exchange data packages with my other instances. Each of them knows about this offer, and in the event of my disappearance, we have ways of informing the Landsred that your house has ignored the new synchronized Empire's presence on the planet for decades, while carrying out the Emperor's secret plan to break the monopoly of melange. Think over my offer. As far as I know, your Emperor is a greedy man. Surely a 1,000-fold increase in dew production will be a suitable argument for him to keep silent on certain issues. No worries.
I am not seeking war. I just want to stay in the shadows this time.
You will find this audio in the materials for this scenario. Is it a bluff? Verification of the vial confirms. It has melange properties. Can the house trust the thinking machine? What does the Emperor have to say about all of this? Can such an undeniable violation of the Great Convention be allowed just to generate a melange substitute? I leave the answers to those difficult questions for you. That's all for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed the story, and if you did, hit that like button and subscribe. Remember to check the link to the handouts in the description below. Thank you for joining me, and see you in the next episode. Until then, may your rolls be critical and your adventures be legendary.